toil under the sun. For all their days are full of pain, and their work is a vexation, and even at night their minds do not rest. This also is vanity. The writer seems to be pessimistic and even depressed. I'm sure that there are times in putting your facts and figures together, in formulating your goals and vision for the next year and beyond, it has seemed like a thankless task. Apart from the fact that you can never please everyone, there is a dilemma of insufficient funds to meet essential needs. Many of us realize that our priorities are many, and we have to pray for wisdom and knowledge to know how to best proceed. There is the delicate balance between cutting back and spending, need for money to invest in education, the increasing demands of healthcare, the cry for jobs and economic development, the warning about environmental protection, global warming, and the preservation of endangered species, the expansion of tourism and the desire to have a more diverse economy, the necessity of feeding ourselves more and more to the best of our ability, the limited social services, resources, and the pressing demand for care and support, the vital place that our youth must play today and shaping them for a future we cannot foresee. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to pressures from at home and abroad. We pray that we may be wise stewards of God's good gifts to us, and that we may boldly sow seeds that will be harvested long after we are gone. May your debate be helpful, productive, and insightful. When all is said and done, may we be proud of the efforts that you are all making on our behalf, and may you come to conclusions that will bless us all in the coming months and years. God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory.
Good morning, honorable members, and good morning to all of you who are visiting with us in the gallery. First, we would like to recognize a number of persons who are visiting with us, and you can stand as I call the island from which you represent. We have a group of teachers and students with us this morning, a grouping from Cat Island. Can you stand? A group from San Salvador. And a group from Exuma. Welcome. You've selected the appropriate day to be here with us today. It is my understanding that the Honorable Minister for Education is leading off this morning, and so the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for South Beach. Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for the Exumas.
Grateful, Mr. Speaker. I want to...
Honorable Member,
briefly, Mr. Speaker.
what is the purpose?
I just want to welcome the young students, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, you've given me your leave. Thank you very much.
Honorable Member.
Very briefly, Mr. Speaker. Very briefly. No, he's be speaking.
Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, I thought you were in charge of this. You don't
I am in charge, and that is why I am giving directives.
Okay, Mr. Speaker.
The Chair has recognized the Honorable Member for South Beach.
I would love to pursue the
Lord bless you, Honorable Speaker. Grace and peace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, love of God, fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all. Speaker, I am grateful to the divine essence, the great I am, for the privilege to serve our Bahamian people and to present this 2019-20 budget for the Ministry of Education. Budget sets a blueprint for prosperity, industry, discipline, and success for many years to come. I am satisfied and convinced. And I'm forever grateful to the wonderful, hard-working, dynamic people of South Beach for their matchless encouragement, inspiration, and support that they have shown over these past years. So my grandmother is Lita Lloyd, whose shoulders, she's Long Island, on whose shoulders and in whose heritage, South Long Island, I abide. She lived by a mantra which I ingested throughout my life, and that is never hang your hat, your basket rather, higher than you could reach it. This 2019-20 budget calls for us in education, from the leaders at the helm to the line staff on the ground, to be prudent, be cost-effective, accountable, respectful of the people's money. But I also this morning beg your indulgence to publicly thank some people who are very near and dear to me for their continued support. I continue to serve our people. Wish to give honor and praise and gratitude to my wife, Michelle, who sits with us today, whose patience is beyond measure, who got into something she did not bargain for, and who is just as much in this fight as I am. Duties extend from sunrise to sunset, well after. Great sacrifices, loads of encouragement to do our best. To our children, Aisha, who's here, along with Sanjay, my grandson Andreas, Shakti, Shiva, Kendra, and our grandchildren, to my brother Charlie, who is with us this morning. Thank you. Skeeter, well, Rodney, don't call him Skeeter, Rodney, Christina. I also want to say a special hello to the people of Cat Island and Exuma and San Salvador, our wonderful teachers. This morning, I am advised, Mr. Speaker, that they are beneficiaries of, what's it, iPads? Laptops from the Electro Telecom company. These students, yes, sir. These students are the most outstanding in their various school districts, Mr. Speaker. And those students deserve our thunderous and rousing round of applause. I also want to say a special thanks, Mr. Speaker, to the people of South Beach who continue to open their homes, their hearts, as I walk through their neighborhoods and visit them, listening to their concerns and suggestions. As I work to balance my ministerial responsibilities as well as to serve their interests and be an attentive representative. From the beginning of my tenure in South Beach as a member of Parliament, I made it my business to be as available as possible. That's why every Thursday when I'm in town, I'm in my office, and I'm there until the last person leaves. Raquel can confirm that, and really give them, I teach them not only a fish, we do that, but also to become fishers of men, Every month there is a constituency meeting to which they are welcome. Every 3 months there is a town meeting. We have had, I think, about 7 or 8 so far in the 2 years we have been there, discussing matters of importance to their lives, WTO, scholarships, job opportunities, list of empowerment facilities. In fact, there's a BTVI town meeting coming up to discuss the grant initiative. I'll speak more about that a little bit later on here, Mr. Speaker. When we started our representation, we realized that one of the things in South Beach that they have is a load of derelict vehicles. Happy to say so far we have removed 137 since we came to office, thanks to the leadership of my great team member, Mr. Jack Renaud. And again, it's about teaching how to fish. Proud of the team, the executive team, and the captains, and the co-captains, and the deputy captains. Worked very hard. I also wish today, Mr. Speaker, to give honor and again praise and gratitude to a hard-working team, dedicated, dynamic, indefatigable team at the Ministry of Education, led by Mrs. Lorena Vista, who I am honored to celebrate and gratefully praise for her amazing work, leadership, ability, knowledge, competencies. She leads our team with great elegance, pride, and commitment, along with Mr. Marcellus Taylor, who is our director, and his team. Because of them, I am. Today, sir, I have one of the best views of the bright future that lies ahead in this little country called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Each day, I get to hear and see the amazing achievements of students throughout the length and breadth of our archipelago. And I wish to share just for a moment some of the notable achievements of our students over this past academic year. C.I. Gibson is the winner of the 21st Annual National Debate Competition that was held in April. We had 2019 Young Chef winners in the staging of the 27th Annual Bahamas Young Chef Culinary Competition that was held in March of this year, and Antonisha Thompson of C.I. Walker won the senior division, and Kristen Ingram of Preston Aubrey High School in Eleuthera won the second junior division. This year, at the 22nd Annual National Spelling Bee, there was an all-male celebration, Mr. Speaker. The winner was Roy Seligman, the Lightfoot Key International School. Mr. Arjun Shetty from Queens College was the second place finisher, and Kevin Williams of Yellow Elder Primary finished third. Mr. Seligman competed in the Scripps National Spelling Bee competition in Washington and did a commendable showing, although he did not place in the final 50. Also this year, Mr. Speaker, I wish to acknowledge and recognize that our second and third place spelling bee winners also went to Washington and were afforded an opportunity to represent the Bahamas at the Scripps. Now I would like to give congratulations to Miss Lauren Scriven, St. Francis de Sales Catholic School in Abaco, who was the winner of the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Award. Lauren is the granddaughter, great-granddaughter actually, of Mrs. Sylvia Scriven. Some of you will remember her from a representation here for the Anstown constituency, now the Freetown constituency. And I want to congratulate their parents, caregivers, their elders, supporters, godparents, family, friends, relatives, and otherwise, for remaining committed to their profession and to developing our students. I wish, Mr. Speaker, to give just a background review of some of the departments which fall under my remit, and just speak briefly about what is going on with those departments. For instance, the Department of Archives, which many people do not really know in our country, not quite aware of the very important role that this department plays from its research room in support of the government's mandate to educate our young people, to recording and preserving of Bahamian history. A department that was established as the Public Records Office in 1971, today, by an act of Parliament, is now the Department of Archives. This department needs serious upgrade and advancement, most urgent. Young people need to be trained to become archivists, recorders, conservation techniques. Qualified staff are in very short supply. And I would like to encourage young persons who may be interested in this discipline. Monies is available in the scholarship program of the Ministry of Education that would give support to their pursuit of this most important competency in our country. Over the next year, the department is going to go through an aggressive public education campaign. It's going to put on microfilm the records of the Judiciary Department. It is going to launch a membership drive so that more Bahamians can become card-carrying members of the National Archives, and it will look at ways in which it can develop PPPs, private-public partnerships, so that through its production can produce coffee table books of historical images and manuscripts of the Bahamian society. Then there is the National Library Service. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the library today is changing right before our eyes. Students, the literature tells us, are relying less on libraries as the sole source of accessing information, and libraries are becoming spaces of interactivity and innovation driven by technology, spaces for learning, media production, virtual meeting places, and other areas conducive to collaborative and hands-on work. In 20 to 30 years, what we see as libraries today will be very much different. It will be more or less paperless environments, touchscreen information portals, and robotic assistance bags. And the library service then is really in desperate need of an upgrade and a reformation, if you wish. For instance, Mr. Speaker, we have 60 public library staff members who have not been regularized. Some of them have been in the library service for 30 years. Still not regularized. That's a task we will take on this year. We will see it done. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister of Finance, the Honorable Member. Library has to be transformed into 21st century modern facilities. We have libraries today in the capital that close at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker. 4 o'clock. Students are just getting out of school. 4 o'clock. Needs to be responsive to the needs of our young people and others. Needs to become automated. The library systems today, including e-books. Such loans can be possible, and access to information and digital and audiovisual materials to assist, again, our young people, and not only our young people, but others as well. We also need to embark upon the digitization of the Bahamian content in literature so that it could be more easily available across our country. The libraries. There is a department under my remit, Mr. Speaker, called the National Accreditation and Equivalency Council of the Bahamas, or by the acronym NACOB. The Education Act stipulates, and I quote, no independent school which is not in existence at the date of the coming into operation of this act shall be opened, maintained, or conducted unless and until it is registered under the provisions of this act. End quote. Today, many schools in the country are registered with NACOB. sadly, Mr. Speaker, many are not. And this is dangerous because our young people are being placed in what is considered educational environments without our knowledge and without our very important oversight to ensure that the standards of this society, the quality standards of this society, as established by NACOP, are being maintained. Because it is NACOP's responsibility, legal mandate, to ensure that all educational institutions, programs, and courses, and their instructors, administrators, are accredited, that they meet the rigorous international standards and best practices, and have a continuous quality enhancement plan. Many preschools or primary schools are operating outside of the law. And it's important for those who do operate, be encouraged to please become registered, number one, and seek to have your institution accredited. Otherwise, as the law provides, you will be prosecuted and brought before the courts. This is very important. We are encouraging this. Government has authorized certain facilities managers which will come on stream in this budget year. They are going to assist in us fulfilling this very important mandate. I come now, Mr. Speaker, to the Education Loan Authority, whose chairman sits in this honorable house, in the person of the honorable member for Micah. Chair. I've spoken about the ELA for a number of times. And I've spoken about it because some 2,057 loans are outstanding to the tune of $83 million. There is a delinquency rate of over 90%. Sorry, let me say it again, Mr. Speaker. There's a default rate of over 90%. Default. And a delinquency rate of almost 1 year, 275 days. Because of this very high default rate, the program was suspended in 2009, 10 years ago. And we want to restart this program, but we can't. Because many of those 2,057 who owe money won't pay. We are going to go after them as we have and seek to prosecute them and require them to pay. I'm sad to say, Mr. Speaker, some of those who do not pay are public servants. They work for the government. We are going to seek the ways to have their salaries garnished. Yes, indeed. When we came to office in 2017, and I credit the great work of the chair and the former chair, present chair, in bringing this to where it is today, over $150 million was owed to the Scholarship Loan Division. Today it's $83 million. The honorable member for Micah doesn't play, Mr. Speaker. If she had it her way, we would be down to near zero. But she's working to get there. And the thing about it is, Mr. Speaker, we have had in place now for a couple of years a very generous incentive program. If you come in, I think we knock off almost 40%. No interest, 40%. So if you owe $10, you only have to pay $6. And they still wouldn't come. So we are working to remedy this. We want to restart this program. There are many persons who come to us asking for loans. And we are going to do what we have to do in order to make this program a success. It's found $83 million. When I come back here again next year, I hope to give you very good news. I speak now, Mr. Speaker, of an area which is causing a little bit of consternation in our Bahamian society. It's called the Bahamas High School Diploma. Since 2017, the criteria for graduation has been standardized across this country. And we want it to be standardized so that we can ensure that there are quality graduates that enter in society. This country is committed that by 2030, 85% of those leaving the 12th grade will meet the standard, minimum graduation standard. By 2030, in approximately 10 years, Mr. Speaker, the commitment of this country, in concert with the Organization of American States, the Inter-American Development Bank, and so on, is that we make it to 85%. Today, Mr. Speaker, only 46% of our 12th graders leaving high school graduate. 46%, less than half. Now, there are 8 criteria that must be met. In order to graduate, you will have to have passed 4 BJCs. You must pass them in math, English, health, or general science, and social studies, or religion. And you only have to get a D to pass. You must have a certain number of credits, 27. There must be a parent-teacher conference visit once a year in the 10th, 11th, and each year. Job readiness, community service, have to have a certain GPA, attendance, and punctuality. The data shows, Mr. Speaker, that these 4 BJCs is the most challenging. A lot of people, students, are not meeting it. And the second most challenging is the number of credits that they need. You have to have some in English, some in math, some in science. No. Let's be straight up, Mr. Speaker. Our students must graduate from high school. You need to have a high school diploma, not a certificate of attendance. You don't need a BTS certificate, been to school. You need a diploma. That's how you get into college. And that's how other agencies, enterprises recognize you as being worthy. And we're doing everything that we can to assist our students. Teachers and administrators are working overtime. And what is disappointing, Mr. Speaker, is that so many parents wait until the 12th grade to come to petition the Ministry of Education to ask for some concessions in these, what we consider minimum standards. Minimum. Here's what I mean. So, for instance, Mr. Speaker, you did not pass the BJC in grade 9. The ministry allows you to take the BJC in grade 10 and in grade 11. And if you still didn't make it in grade 12, they give you until August of your 12th year. Yet we have parents who come and ask us to please, would you, Mr. Minister, give my son, my daughter, whatever, the opportunity to graduate. She only missed the science, or she only missed the math. And you all have to understand in the ministry that everybody is an academic. See, that's another thing that gets me. Everybody is an academic. Really. Really now. Everybody is an academic. Okay? So, Mr. Speaker, reading is academic. Writing is academic. Arithmetic is academic. Everybody must be able to meet those basic competencies. I don't care what discipline you are seeking to pursue. If you want to be a carpenter, you got to read a carpentry manual, textbook. Don't come with me with that about not being academic. Because if you go to BTDI, automotive mechanics, electronics, electrical installation, they have textbooks. How is it going to be possible to graduate, to certify, if you can't read, if you can't write, if you can't compute, if you cannot explain to potential customers what it is that you seek to serve them as your service. So please, I invite parents, you now understand that there are minimum standards of graduation. Students begin in grade 8 to prepare for their BJC. My God, grade 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 years to pass 4 subjects. BJCs. And what do BJCs test, Mr. Speaker? The minimum standards. And why is this important? Every year, thousands of our students leave high school. Every year. 5,000, 6,000 or thereabouts. What we now know statistically is that 70% of them go into the world of work. 30% go on to tertiary education, approximately. What is it that an employer expects when he or she receives a graduate? That they will be able to function, make meaningful contributions in this very fast developing global society. And as far as we are concerned, the standards are as low as we can make them. Parents must become involved. They must work with their children and not wait for the last minute to deal with this. And the school is bending over backwards. They are going beyond the call of duty, far beyond. Teachers are having classes in the afternoons, on weekends, on holidays, in order to assist students who may be struggling with some particular subject area. The GLAD is the grade 11 assessment test. In grade 3, the students take 2 tests on 2 subjects, English and maths. Last year in 2018, there were 5,138 who sat the exam. That was a decrease from 2017. Last year, only 63% got grades between A and D. Mr. Speaker, A and D. Last year, 63%. Again, we're looking at nearly half of our students in grade 3 that are not meeting what we consider the grade 3 standard in math and English. In grade 6, they take 4 subjects: maths, English, science, and social studies. Only 56% grades A through D. So we see where there is a struggle. And again, these 4 subjects in grade 6, maths, language, science, and social studies, are the ones they're going to take in grade 9 for BJCs. And if we're struggling in the grade 6 area, you can understand why. But I'll come to some of the remedies that we are seeking in just a moment. Let me come to the BJC, Mr. Speaker. The BJC. The last year, in 2018, there were 11,827 candidates from 123 centers who sat the exam. That was an increase over 2017. We also saw, happily, an increase in grades between A and C, and a decrease in grades between D and U. And we are very proud to say that 176 of our students received grade A in 5 or more subjects. These were exemplary students. For instance, we had a student, this is BJCs now, we had a student, Ethan Bunbury from Donald Davis, got 9 A's and a B. We had Jasmine Adamson from H.O. Nash, 9 A's and a B. We had Emily Kemp from Forest Heights in Abaco, 10 A's. Come on, Rob, Rob. Let's look at the BGCSEs. BGCSEs, 6,720 candidates, 111 centers. This exam also seeks to show what students know and learn after 3 years, 10, 11, and 12. And, Mr. Speaker, the idea is, the objective is that 80% of those students should be getting grades between A and G. Right? A and G, yes, A and G. Well, we did have 76 candidates who received grade A in 5 or more subjects, 76 out of the 6,000. And 17 of the 76 scored A in 8 or more subjects. For instance, hold on, don't wrap yet. Jana McCarty of Central Eleuthera High got 9 A's, 1 B, and 3 C's. And Prachi Kondapuram of Queen's College got 13 A's, all A's. She was the National Merit Scholar. Mr. Speaker, I maintain that education is the most critical feature of national development. This is what we have said in our manifesto. We maintain that everything rises and falls on an equipped, focused, disciplined, competent, majestic, industrious, curious, and genius people. And we believe that education and training are the vehicles by which these noble objectives and imperatives would be achieved. We believe this, so much so, that we as a country, we enshrined it in our national consciousness in this way. We wrote, quote, and whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, loyalty, industry, unity, and abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law, end quote. Mr. Speaker, this is a different world today than just a few years ago. Today, this is a world about artificial intelligence, augmented and mixed reality, robotics, personalized and experiential learning in a fast-paced digital universe. Bahamas is not the world, and therefore we cannot educate citizens only for this parochial setting. They must be equipped to engage competitively and robustly, prosperously, profitably, and successfully in the universe around them. This is fundamental, and it doesn't get any more basic than that. In times past, employers would spend weeks or months training their newly hired graduates, sometimes in cohorts, shaping their broad knowledge so that it could be applied to the specific needs of the government, the company, or agency. Not today. They want graduates whom they don't have to train as much. They expect new hires to become equipped and ready to contribute, to apply their knowledge and be ready to jump into the working life immediately without further training. In the ongoing global drive for efficiency and competitiveness, students face a wider set of expectations, not only to learn and synthesize subject matter, but to adapt it and put it to use almost immediately. And it is indisputable that the demand for global education is rapidly increasing, and consequently those not globally equipped will be left behind. This we cannot and will not afford. And so our country needs a workforce that can address its societal challenges and embrace its plethora of opportunities with innovation, industry, insight, wisdom, creativity, and focus, technologically, socially, economically, and with respect to all genders and cultures. And to this end, the ministry continues to pursue its avenues and put the necessary infrastructure in place to ensure that the Bahamian education system is aligned accordingly. My initial budget presentation, Mr. Speaker, I noted the urgent need to address a national skills deficit, improve substandard literacy, numeracy, and communication levels, and to promote greater inclusiveness in the education of society and curb unemployment and unemployability. And I can say with assurance, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Education, led by the great team leaders of Mrs. Umbrista and Mr. Taylor, is making wonderful strides in remedying this deficiency. I noted very interestingly, in the final quadrant of his presentation, My dearest hero, the honorable member for Exuma and Ragged Island, asked some very pertinent questions. He said, who is going to invest in the people? Who is going to speak for the people? What about the people? He asked repeatedly. Well, with deep respect, may I tell it. But before I do, Mr. Speaker, let me contextualize it this way. You will remember, leading up to the 2012 general election, that the PIP promised to double the investment in education. They never said exactly how they would do that, except in remarks by former education minister, my dearest brother and friend, the Honorable Jerome Fitzgerald, who said after the opening of Parliament in 2012, that night, according to a Tribune article, we made a commitment to double our investment in education and training, and you will see a major adjustment to the budget in that regard. As you are aware, the budget has been cut consistently since 2007, unfortunately, and it is impacted negatively on the application of our education, end quote. During the election campaign, former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram, took Mr. Christie to task. He told him it can't be done. And he warned that doubling the investment in education means that you're going to move it from $290 million, which it was then per year, to $580 million. You can't borrow that amount of money in the 4 years, because that will lead to $2.3 or so billion. Christie says, we must do it, as he said. Well, we agree that there must be great investment in education and in our people. But it only can be done within the country's resources. But let's take a look at this so-called doubled investment in education. According to the Statistical Digest of the Central Bank in 2014, that fiscal year, education total was $276 million. 2015, $265 million. 216, $303 million. 217, $290 million. Doesn't sound or seem like doubling investment. Let's take a look at the Free National Movement in just its 2 years in office. We met a budget essentially in place when we came to office, 2017-18, and even then, our investment was $313 million. The following year, 2017-18-19, our investment was $331 million. This year, our investment will be $350 million. That's doubling the investment in education. Because we believe that education is priority number one. There cannot be no transfiguration of the Bahamian society, no chance of realizing the noble, elegant prescriptions of our preamble, nor of achieving substantive, sustained social reformation without the crucible of education. Forget it, or let's get serious. That is why the Ministry of Education is focused, not exclusively, on several key objectives that we expect. Don't say preach, because I take up collections, but I think that we expect will issue a new dispensation in the educational enterprise. Who did he, according to our beloved member from the honorable member from Exumas, are going to invest in the people? Who? We are. And I can prove it. Since coming to office, this ministry has embarked on an aggressive program to reform and refine and enhance the educational enterprise. And we're doing it in critical ways and critical areas. Number one, professional development. Teachers and administrators. What does this mean? Mr. Speaker, at the heart of education is the teacher and teaching. Nothing and no one is more central, more indispensable, more critical. According to the Organization of American States, the OAS, I quote, ensuring that qualified, professionally trained, motivated, and well-supported teachers are available for all learners is essential for addressing today's key education challenges in poor and rich countries alike. The quality of education can exceed neither the quality of its teachers nor the quality of its teaching. I've been saying this for a long time, certainly since I've become the Minister of Education. We have to develop our teachers and administrators. During the summer alone, more than 1,400 teachers take time to participate in professional development activities. More than 400 school administrators attend the Public School Administrators Conclave in August, a workshop where administrators explore many of the policies, practices, and programs, processes of the ministry. We are serious. That is why in 2018 we engaged the services of former Director Mrs. Iris Pinder to strengthen the leadership and management capacities of district superintendents, school principals, and other administrators. Hundreds have and hundreds will undergo extensive training over the next 2 years. We have professional development in October and November for Family Island teachers, and in February for New Providence teachers. Through the Commonwealth of Learning, whose principals, some of them are in town right now. I had the privilege of opening their session yesterday. Our teachers and other administrators participate in online courses offered by the Organization of American States called the Massive Online Open Courses through the Inter-American Network for Teachers. And through this, a Trainer of Trainers program was completed by 35 teachers recently in the use of technology in the stream, not STEM or STEAM, stream of science, technology, reading, arts, and maths. Get the new acronym. You could repeat it. STEM, stream, stream, not STEM, not STEAM, stream. Science, technology, reading, arts, math, and engineering. Okay? We have to do more, and we will do more as resources permit. Learning and teaching modalities are changing every year, Mr. Speaker, driven in large part by technology. Today, education is seized with the reality of augmented reality, of individualized and personalized learning, artificial intelligence, gamification, redesigned learning spaces, distance education, and the like. And this is changing education across the globe, and our teachers must keep up. For decades, the educational focus was the teacher or the school. That's upside down view as far as we're concerned. Education must become student-centered. It's all about the student. What the student needs, what the student wants, what the student desires, what the student expects. That's how the system must be redesigned and operated in today's 21st century reality. That is why funding for further teacher training through scholarships and tuition assistance engagement with U.S. and Canadian universities take priority in our ministry. What we have also done, Mr. Speaker, is to, we have restarted, as it were, the career path for teachers that has been in abeyance since 2011. And what we are seeking to do is to move those teachers of exceptional quality, standards, and performance from their teacher to senior teacher and to master teacher. And we will do this by improving their salary structures, by rewarding them for their excellence. And in this year's budget, $219,000 is being provided to facilitate this very important work of now putting on stream and enshrining our teacher career, or yes, teacher career path. The second area of focus in our ministry, Mr. Speaker, is one that is most dear to my heart. Who is speaking for the people? We are. And I can prove it. We are beginning with our youngest. This ministry recognizes that pre-primary education is critical, crucial, as a foundational stage for primary education, character formation, and lifelong learning. According to our census, there are over 12,000 3- and 4-year-olds in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Over 12,000. Of that, only 4,200 are in an approved, government-recognized preschool program. That means, Mr. Speaker, that over 8,000 of our 3-4-year-olds do not have the necessary preparation for first grade. And I am advised by our first grade teachers that approximately 45 to 50% of those entering first grade are not ready. And you could tell who has gone to preschool and who has not. Because those who didn't come unprepared. This preparation is absolutely crucial, indispensable. In order for our people to become self-assured, socially equipped students, capable of proficiently engaging the rigors of academic, vocational, and spiritual training throughout their schooling and adult years. The Inter-American Development Bank has been pushing this very hard. As a result, we last year embarked on what we called the Universal Pre-Primary Initiative. What does that mean? We seek that by the year 2025, that all 3-4-year-olds will be enrolled in a government-approved preschool, pre-primary program. How are we going to do that? We are doing it one step at a time, investing in our people. So, last year, we decided that we wanted to increase the enrollment by 1,000 students. And we will do that each year until we reach this goal of universal preschool for our children. Now, we went around our campuses and we converted all vacant spaces or those that could be converted into specially designed pre-primary facilities. This netted us, Mr. Speaker, 350 additional spaces for our students. We are aiming for 1,000. And so we partnered with 44 NACORP-approved private preschools in the Bahamas. And by that, we were able to enroll an additional 450, bringing a total of 800 preschoolers that were enrolled in a program paid for by the government. In 2019, we intend to do the same thing, to continue until we arrive at this. It is very important for us because, Mr. Speaker, studies suggest that kids who enter preschool are more likely to finish high school, more likely to go on to college, more likely to earn much more in their earning years. In the United States, it has been shown that students entering preschool, completing preschool, are also, that commitment and investment is very important in reducing crime rates in the U.S. Also, to show our commitment and show the ORS's commitment, they gave us $83,000, and we are going to match it with funds to come up to $185,000 for what we call our Bahamas Early Start Project. And this would enable our students to get the head start in those very critical years. Now, here's another very important benefit, Mr. Speaker, with regard to this preschool initiative. As you know, we have a special services unit within our schools, along with the teams, officers that are stationed at the special services section. and they provide a vital service. Here's what we are finding. We realize that when we have the children of 3 years old, we are able at that age to identify learning challenges and difficulties and potential disability. That then gives the special unit section the opportunity to jump on and providing remediation for that child and their families in many ways and in many instances, sir, can almost guaranteeing successful outcomes. Now, the current reality is that we need more persons trained in special education and to deal with these special circumstances. Right now, we just don't have enough psychologists, speech pathologists, audiologists, and the like. And again, those who are interested, young people who are considering a career, a possible career, monies, scholarship monies are available for students to pursue these very needed disciplines. Because we have a situation now where unfortunately too many of our students are placed on a waiting list, Mr. Speaker, because we simply do not have the specialties in these areas. Now, we will be providing and have provided financial support for teachers, current teachers, who are interested in being retrained in these crucial areas. Today, we only have 105 special education teachers and 72 teacher aides dedicated to the special needs program. Sounds like a lot, Mr. Speaker, but it's not. And here's why. Our statistics show us that we have approximately 8 or so thousand students in our school system that need this special attention. 105 teachers do not quite meet that very important requirement. Another very important objective of the ministry is curricular reform. We know that outstanding teachers and outstanding teaching is critical, but they must have something relevant and dynamic and progressive to teach. Now, curriculum must be consistently evaluated and adjusted according to the 21st century needs of our 21st century learners. And with renewed focus on curriculum reform, officers in charge of that division have been working at various stages on the curriculum cycle, which was conceptualized at the Ministry of Education's conclave held last year, April. What we did not realize, Mr. Speaker, is that there was no prescribed cycle of curriculum reform. We have now instituted it. But there must be a major reform, re-evaluation of the curriculum every 6 years. Doesn't mean that throughout that period you will not be continuing to tweak as necessary, but every 6 years. And so we expect by this September, documents for the primary school social studies and physical education program in the new curriculum format will be produced. Right now, 4 subjects at the primary level are in the collection data phase: science, maths, religious knowledge, and performing arts. Computer science, language arts, physical education, and social studies are in the middle of that cycle. We also have officers in the high school area who are preparing and just about ready to produce documents for biology and chemistry. And we are insisting that we raise the literacy standards of our young people. That is why in our primary school, Mr. Speaker, there is at the very start of the day, 90 minutes each and every day dedicated to literacy. And this adjustment has been made in the lower primary throughout the government schools, so that all of our primary school teachers are now equipped and on board with this new thrust, strategic design in our curriculum. Technology. This is one that has garnished the attention of the media to some considerable extent. We are committed to digitizing the educational system in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We are committed to that, and that is why this government has embarked on a $17 million project to achieve that very important objective. Go ahead. This is why this has profound implications, Mr. Speaker. We have 172 schools, 16 districts, 60 satellite buildings, 4,200 teachers, 80,000 students, 1,600 support staff, spread across 20 major islands, populated. This is a mammoth task. Jamaica doesn't have this issue. Trinidad doesn't have this issue. Barbados doesn't have these issues. Technology. Every single year we are faced with a shortage of teachers. 70, 80, 90, 100 teachers short every single year. In those critical subject areas, mathematics, science, technology, language, foreign language, every year. And the most affected, of course, are those in the family islands. So, what happened? Last year, September, we signed a contract with DTC, Cable Bahamas, and in January of this year, with Walker's Industries. And our intention is to digitize the entire system, 100%. That means that every school will become a smart school. Every school will have robust, comprehensive, wide band internet capability. Every school. That means, Mr. Speaker, that every one of those primary students, every single one, will be equipped with an iPad. Every one of their teachers will be equipped with a laptop. Yes. And all of their classes will have their devices, projectors, and screens so that we could facilitate this extremely necessary invention in our educational system. Here's what it's also going to do, Mr. Speaker. Here's what it's going to do. Now today, we do not have a physics teacher or sometimes a math teacher or a science teacher that we could send to Jamaica, an Athens High School or Crooked Island or El Lago or South Andres and so on and so forth. Here's what will happen. We are piloting a project whereby through this internet and this Wi-Fi and this digitization process, the teacher, say in anatomy, teaching physics, could be teaching that physics class not only to the class in front of him or her, but across the system. With the ability of interactivity, Mr. Speaker, so that if that student in Athens or in South Andres or wherever needs to ask a question, they are able to provide and be provided with a response in real time. Further, Mr. Speaker, further, that lesson then becomes archived so that the student and or his parents can return at their leisure to that particular lesson to be refreshed, tutored, as the case may be. Right here, right now. This is in process. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, through this particular design, teachers now can interactively provide extra tutorials for those students who so desire. And what we envision, Mr. Speaker, is not only those students who are presently enrolled in school today, but because of this applicability, even those who are out of school are now going to be able, with proper registration and protocol, to get back into learning, probably upgrading their skills, probably going back to school, getting that high school diploma that they did not eventually get when they were in school. So this is revolutionary. This is transformative. Technology is going to put education in the stratosphere. This is what it means by equal access and inclusive education, Mr. Speaker. One other very important feature of this system. Today, Mrs. Ambista or the director doesn't, at the click of a mouse, have information that they can immediately access about schools, the teachers, and what happens. How many students do we have in the public schools today? That's still a very manual process. It shouldn't be. We should be able, from the ministry's headquarters, to go into the system and to know exactly what is happening at Preston Albury High School. Exactly what is happening. We should be able, from our computer, to know whether Mr. Johnson, the physical education teacher, is on campus today. We should be able to go and see what the grades were in Mr. Johnson's 12th grade class. We should be able to go, Mr. Speaker, and find out whether a one DeWitt Paulson Moultrie in Inaugural, what kind of grades, but we got report from his parents that he was missing school, he was on the salt farm getting a barracuda. And we want to know whether in fact he is doing well in physics, which we know is one of his favorite subjects. Mrs. Ambista and Mr. Taylor and our team should know that. We don't know that today. We have no knowledge of that. Not only that, from a data standpoint, those who are doing research on the system, students at the University of the Bahamas or other tertiary institutions in the Bahamas, should be able to access the system under proper security and know what's going on and know what our system is all about. Parents should be able to talk to teachers and find out. They could go on the computer and see if my daughter's son is in school today, see what they got on their last English exam, so on and so forth. This is what this system is designed to do, and Mr. Speaker, we are much and well on our way. Now, Mr. Speaker, I come to two areas that is going to be very interesting. Let me get a drink. Mr. Media, listen carefully, please. Media needs to listen, Mr. Speaker, because as we heard yesterday from South and Central Andros about the confusion it appears to be around this free tuition, Prime Minister was very clear, you know. The member of Killarney was very clear. Nowhere did he say free, except within the context of free tuition. I know we hear what we want to hear. And as leaders, it's our job to assist our people in understanding. That's our job. So when people come to you with questions, I was in South Eleuthera. I was in South Eleuthera. And the parents in South Eleuthera, when I was visiting the school 2 weeks ago, asked if they could meet me. No problem. So we gathered in this particular classroom. And they started off, Mr. Minister, we hear that the Deep Creek Primary School is going to be taken over by the Island School. The next one, we hear of this, we hear of that, and we hear of the next. Afterwards, I said, who did you hear this from? We heard it. I said, who did you hear it from? They were not able to tell. So I asked them, did you hear it from me? The Prime Minister, a member of the government, Mrs. Ambista, the Permanent Secretary, or anybody in the ministry, the director, the principal is sitting right here. Did she tell you that? So what are you asking? What are you asking? So I suggest you respectfully go back to who you heard it from. Our job, Mr. Speaker, to educate our people. Then they may be misinformed. I mean, it's an instant thing. That's why I am inviting the media to listen very carefully, because it is important that they understand what I'm about to say. All right? The government has decided that beginning this September, 2009, it will initiate what is called a tertiary grant program tenable at the University of Bahamas for all qualified present and incoming full-time students who will receive tuition costs to cover their, who will receive costs to cover their tuition and mandatory course fees. Beginning this September, 2019, the government of the Bahamas will initiate a tertiary grant program tenable at the University of the Bahamas, where all qualified, those accepted by the university, present and incoming full-time students will receive costs to cover their tuition and mandatory course fees. This is not an open university accepted by the university. Accepted by the university. The same acceptance that the university now prescribes, nothing is changing. Same acceptance. Those students who are accepted by the university already has its prescriptions, Mr. Speaker. We are not doing anything differently. All we are saying is, and we have committed to this in our manifesto, that we will make tertiary education accessible to all qualified Bahamian students. Qualified. I understand. Qualified. No problem. Please Google it. It has also been stated that all Family Island students who move to the New Providence for the purpose of pursuing coursework at UB full-time, qualified, accepted by UB, will receive an accommodation grant of $500 per month. The program, Mr. Speaker, the program does not cover non-instructional fees or security deposit or application fees or drop or add fees or books. It does not cover courses taken during the summer unless extenuating circumstances as determined by the university. And the government has a right to bond recipients in specific disciplines such as education and nursing. Therefore,
The chair recognizes the honorable member for the Azumas and Rocket Island on a point of order.
The member for South Beach is an honorable man. However, Mr. Speaker, either he is misleading today or this government may have misled the public before in relation to their commitment to free education. I do believe, Mr. Speaker, the member for South Beach is in fact honorable, but today he might be complicit in misleading. Either today, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable member.
either today,
State specifically. State specifically.
this government,
Honorable member.
I'm
The chair is speaking.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
States specifically where the member is misleading.
Mr. Speaker,
You cannot just make a round statement.
yes, Mr. Speaker, I will. Mr. Speaker, during the budget communication last year, the Prime Minister said, education will be free for qualified students. Of course, before that he said something different, but let's focus on this, Mr. Speaker. Education will be free for qualified students. Today, the Minister is inserting all various categories. That's not free. That's not free. He is explaining what's not free, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister said free. Today he's saying that will be free, but this ain't free, and the fees ain't free, and this ain't free. And what they've gone up like that.
Honorable member.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Based on the point that you've raised, the chair is of the view that is not a valid point that you're raising.
I respect your ruling, Mr. Speaker, but the Bahamian...
Honorable member, let me put you on notice. Because I was going to do this a little later, but let me do it now. Earlier this morning, when I advised the House that we had a group of persons here from various family islands, and I called on the Minister of Education and the member for South Beach, who the chair has already recognized, I heard a number of insulting remarks from both you, the member for Zuma and Ragged Island, and the member for Cat Island, Rumkins and Salvador being hurled at the chair. Now, the custom in this parliament since I became the speaker was that whenever any member wanted to make greetings or bring greetings or make a remark, he gives the speaker notice 1 hour before the proceedings. I was here this morning from 8:30 in the morning, and I received no notice from either of you. Yet, when the speaker calls on the member for South Beach, you and the member for Cat Island, and some rumbling from Pine Ridge, is being heard in a disrespectful manner at the chair. Now, I'm putting you and the member for Pine Ridge, in the absence of the member for Cat Island, Rumkins and Salvador, that the chair is not going to tolerate that kind of behavior from any member. Now, the focus, the chair has a responsibility to be as fair as possible. On numerous occasions, when members notify the chair of their intention to bring greetings, the chair accedes to those notices and extend to the official opposition the opportunity to bring greetings as well. On numerous occasions when ministers notify the chair has extended to the official opposition the opportunity to bring greetings as well. And so, honorable member, I see you making preparation to stand. You might as well keep seated, because when I am finished, the chair will be recognizing the honorable member for South Beach. This matter is going to be concluded today. I have watched the video tapes of previous sessions of this parliament, and I've watched the way people deal with the speaker in a disrespectful manner. But I'm putting you on notice that that is not going to happen to this speaker by any member. No, you may not. Honorable member for Cat Island, you're welcome. Honorable member. Yes, you may.
Thank you for your fairness. Mr. Speaker, under At no time, under any circumstance, is it ever the intention of the member, this member, to offer disrespect to the chair, Mr. Speaker. So I wish to be explicitly clear, Mr. Speaker, that under no circumstances, I wasn't brought up that way, Mr. Speaker, so under no circumstances will I disrespect. I did, Mr. Speaker, from my seat, took umbrage to certain members directing the chair, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member.
Attempting to,
Honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, attempting to. So, Mr. Speaker, there was no disrespect intended to the chair, and I want to be explicitly clear, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I rest that there, Mr. Speaker. I have no further issue with that, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I stood on the point of order in relation to the member for South Beach comment.
Honorable members, the chair believes in the independence and the autonomy of the Parliament. I take it as an insult when any member suggests that the chair and the presiding officer is being directed by any other member. I have taken the risk, all risks, of being even removed from this chair to fight for the independence of the Parliament. I've asked the clerk to point out my seat in case I am removed, where I will sit, and I will continue to advocate for the autonomy and the independence of the Parliament, because that is what the Constitution calls for, whether it be from this chair or the back bench. So, I want you to know that I am prepared to risk everything to maintain order and decorum and respect for the rules and procedure of this Parliament. And I am not tolerating, while I am in this chair, any disrespect from any member that could bring this institution into disrepute. The chair recognizes the honorable member for South Beach.
Mr. Honorable Speaker, you do not know how the Holy Spirit works in life, because I was so tired. Mr. Speaker, I was so tired, I needed a rest. I was talking myself right into tiredness. But listen, I wish to make it very clear, Mr. Speaker, because it's important, and I invite the members of the media in particular to get this right, please, because their responsibility is also to assist in educating. You know, the only word that sometimes prohibits here is free, without paying and recognizing the context, okay? This is about free tuition and free mandatory fees that are taken in this regard. That's all it is about. There's nothing that is changing at the University of the Bahamas. Nothing about its acceptance programs and policies. Nothing about what is required for you to get into the university. All of that remains the same. Nothing else. All it simply is dealing with the money part of it, Mr. Speaker. Free. And it's not just for some students. It is for only those who are qualified, and that's what the university decides, not us. And those who are full-time. Again, that's what the university decided. Another. And that's what their prescriptions are. Okay, so there are other information that we will make otherwise, Mr. Speaker, available to the media in terms of the specifics of this, but I'm advised that there's a press conference that's coming on a little bit later on this afternoon with regard to this matter. Let me just go further, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, that there's also the program of DTBI. Again, government is committed that it is going to provide increased access to technical and vocational education. Last year, the government may set aside $2.6 million for students at BTBI to access those who are enrolled, again, Mr. Speaker, full-time programs, whether it's preparatory, certificate, diploma, or associate degrees programs at BTBI, 2.6. This year, government has gone even further, and it's providing $4.1 million for another 1,200 or so full-time students. That this program is going to replace what was last year known as the Be Your Own Boss program. Exactly. So, however, Mr. Speaker, BTVI is a little bit different. Just a little bit different. This program is going to cover tuition, mandatory books, and course fees. It does not cover application and graduation fees. Now this is no catch or anything of this nature. This is only for Bahamian citizens, all right? This is for Bahamian citizens. This program, UB, BTVI, Bahamian citizens. Bahamian citizens, all right? And BTVI is off the charts in terms of its capability today. It's doing a fantastic job. Students who now leave BTVI, Mr. Speaker, are certified. They don't just get a diploma, there's certification that they receive in their various disciplines. They are now even fully registered as a City and Guilds Center, and 50 faculty members have successfully completed the City and Guilds Assessor Training and certification. You would remember City and Guilds from back in the day. Again, also, BTVI has partnered with the ministry from a high school standpoint, where now 200 high school students are enrolled and registered in BTVI's Information and Communication Technology program. That is what we call a dual enrollment at BTVI. Again, the commitment of this government to provide and prepare our students for the 21st century world. One of the things that I find quite disappointing, Mr. Speaker, is this narrative that is extended by some in our community that if you can't be academic, then go learn a trade. I mean, I spoke to that a little bit earlier, all right? That's very unfair because it shows, or at least it leads people to believe that there's some kind of discounted value in some trade. Then no society can operate without trades and technicians. Well, talk to me, okay? I want to speak just briefly, Mr. Speaker, about our capital works program this year. I'm happy that the Ministry of Finance has agreed to give us an additional $12 or so million. Thank you very much, sir. I'll buy you some cufflinks when I have some money, but I want you to. And I can tell you, nothing is more absolutely essential for us at this time because, Mr. Speaker, we have a number of schools that are in a serious state from the critical need of repair. C.R. Walker, D.W. Davis, H.O. Nash, C.W. Sawyer, Government High, S.C. McPherson, C.I. Gibson, C.H. Reeves, L.W. Young. These schools are so critical that we need, and we have taken $12 million out of the budget to fix them right now. They are really in serious condition, very, very serious. We could not go another week with those schools in that condition. I'm happy to report that we have finished now. 2 new primary schools have been constructed in the Family Islands in 2018. They include Rumkey Primary and San Salvador Primary. I'm also happy to report that there will be a new school started in this fiscal year, and that's in Matthewtown in Agua. And we have 2 new schools coming in Gregorytown, on the drawing board in Gregorytown, and you build them, mate. You build what schools? I said we completed them, sir. No, I said we completed them. We didn't say we didn't. No, you deserve the credit, sir. You're one of my heroes. You deserve the credit. Yeah, you deserve the credit. But I give you honor, sir. Not a problem. No, all I was saying is we completed these schools. Yes, you deserve the credit, sir. I have great regard and respect for you. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm coming to the conclusion, and while I thank my dear brother and friend, honorable member for giving me that rest, we did take away 7 minutes of my time, Mr. Speaker. I hope I could get that back. Thank you very much. This may not please the honorable member, again, one of my idols from Cat Island, Rumkey, because we are giving serious consideration to the amalgamation of schools and school districts over the next fiscal year. I says consideration. And I am almost certain, sir, that there might be some implications for the area that he represents, sir. I am only saying that we are giving serious considerations to it because we have been mandated by our honorable member from East Grand Army, that's fine, finance minister, that we've got to be prudent and fiscally responsible. And the reality is with the declining enrollment in population, the declining enrollment in some schools, Mr. Speaker, it just simply does not make fiscal, economic sense to do what we are continuing to do, all right? But we are going to discuss this with all stakeholders. We are going to have robust engagement, and we will come to what is in the best interest of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. You know that an amalgamation exercise was conducted in the mid-1990s. In some cases, schools were closed outright, while in other cases, neighboring classes and neighboring schools were joined together. But we cannot ignore some of the realities that we are facing at this time. And because of the challenges that we face, we need to take a good look at how we can maximize the very, as you know, scarce education dollars that we have. Over the past year, we've had challenges populating by way of teachers some of these schools. But that's just the reality. Mr. Speaker, I want to just take a moment in my concluding segment to deal with two issues which is a little bit on the troubling side of our Ministry of Education. In his homily during Pentecost Sunday this past week in St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis said the following: "The more we use social media, the less social we are becoming. The more we use social media, the less social we are becoming." This past school year has witnessed a disturbing phenomenon in our schools involving our students. There's a culture of negativity that has sprung up around the use and misuse of this thing called social media. No one can argue that the internet has become a valued and critical tool in today's universe. Technology is driving the frenetic changes we see and experience all around. It's made our lives easier, more global, more productive. It's been very good. At times, very bad. In the past year, Mr. Speaker, videos of students in various acts of violence and unsavory pursuits have made their way into the specter of everyday life for our young people. We know that bad news spreads far more rapidly and easily than anything good. It is the bane, I guess, of the human condition. Oxford University philosopher James Williams, in his excellent work Stand Out of My Light, addresses this phenomenon of social media and suggests that humanity today is on the verge of losing its identity as a species because our attention has been hijacked by technology to such an extent that we no longer want what we want. He suggests, and has sufficient scientific evidence to prove, that we are being manipulated by this external force, which tells us how and what to think, and tells us what to want. This is very dangerous. Now, as a country, as a government, we must find a way to sanction those who use social media as a platform for nefarious or weaponizing features, whether they realize it or not. For you, Mr. Speaker, I speak to our teachers in this country. I speak to our parents. I speak to our young children who are sitting in the gallery today. They do not have the maturity of mind to understand the dangers of this tool called social media that they have at their unfettered disposal. And they may easily and innocently find themselves ensnared by the vortex of this technological entrapment. The Bahamas has a Computer Misuse Act, which deals with the manipulation of computers and data for criminal intent. I am suggesting, sir, that as a country, as a parliament, that we seek to amend that law, or to enact new ones, to criminalize the use of any electronic device which exposes the life, reputation, identity, or character of a minor to public contempt or derision. And I appeal to parents and teachers and adults and students to be careful about what you put on social media. Your life is young now, and you have many, many, many years to go before expiration, hopefully. Do not permit any exposure of your person or your child's person, by any means, that one day may come back to haunt or embarrass. I hear the honorable member for Exumas and Rhode Island say, Google it. But this is what I mean. Because it is there in cyber library. And it isn't going anywhere. And 20 and 30 and 50 years from now, they pull up something that you did when you were 14 or 16, when you said something at 22, and they bring it back to show the kind of thinking you may have had, or the kind of person that you were in those years. So be careful, very careful. But we in the education establishment have to do even more and ensure that we protect. There was a young man who took some video of a young woman pulling up her clothes and threatened to put it on social media if she did not succumb to his advances. Mr. Speaker, she didn't. And he therefore put it on social media. That sent that girl almost to soundless. Parents became involved. The police became involved. And who is it? Not the man who put it out there, or those who send it onward. But it is her now who has had to deal with the repercussions of that particular incident. And she was at the time essentially in what she might consider, or what they may have considered to be a private circumstance. But yet, because of social media, it has now become a public spectacle. And this is a minor. And as I said in this house at the time, Mr. Speaker, if adults wants to expose their naked self across the social media landscape, that's their business. They're adults. They should be responsible and let them suffer the consequences of their actions. That's their business. But not children, not minors. And I think we should put people in jail who do that. It's jail that can get you all to do that without me saying so.
We want to roll, man. You wrap it up. Coming in strong.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll have to touch this subject because it touches on me. A recent event in our society has reignited a national conversation on a subject, on a particular subject. It's called corporal punishment. This subject, and I am not touching anything to do with any matter now that stands before an adjudicating body. I'm just talking about this because it has landed squarely on my desk, Mr. Minister. This subject, known as corporal punishment, is a cultural phenomenon in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Okay? Let's face it. It's a cultural. Most of us know it by the name or the term which begins with the word cut. You all know what I'm talking about. It is officially defined by the scientists as the use of physical force with the intention of causing a child to experience some kind of pain so as to correct their behavior. 20 years ago, Mr. Speaker, this became very topical in our country because of a certain circumstance. And at that time, across the Ministry of Education's landscape, there were wide-ranging conversations and discussions about whether we as a school system should do away with corporal punishment. That subject has now come back into force in our society. Let me say, Mr. Speaker, that the issue of corporal punishment is sanctioned by the Ministry of Education in what the Safe and School manuals describe as very grave situations. And that it can only be administered by an administrator is in the school, and never in the presence of another student or other students. Must. And as our policy, that must be in the presence of another administrator or teacher. And it is at the very end of all other avenues have been exhausted to seek remedy for the circumstance. What traditionally obtains in our school system, Mr. Speaker, if a student is disruptive or problematic or whatever the case is, we move that student into an alternative program. Program Shore, or Talks for Girls, or Refocus, where we have a relationship, a partnership with a number of pastors, and they are able to assist us in, as it were, getting into the mind of this child, the student, bringing in the parents. We have parent-teacher conferences. We go to the nth degree. This corporal punishment issue is, again, no other option is left available to the school system. I say this, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to be sucked into this conversation about corporal punishment unless or until the society decides what it wants to deal with in terms of corporal punishment. So you're not putting up on us while you have to take your child at home. We are going to have a conversation. We are going to bring in our stakeholders. We are going to have a robust discussion about this particular subject, since it seems now that it needs to be revisited, or should be revisited, or is being called upon to be revisited. No problem. We're going to do that, Mr. Speaker. But what I'm also suggesting to you, sir, is that the society needs to have its own conversation about corporal punishment. Because parents believe, some parents, I should say, with due respect, that this is their right. This is their inherent right. And as far as the United Nations Committee on Education, on the rights of the child, no, it isn't. And that only in circumstances where there is no other option, and even then, they don't believe such circumstances exist, Mr. Speaker, that under no circumstance, whether it's physical or non-physical, any situation that brings a child's sense of self into repudiation and degradement is to at all costs be avoided. And so I have received a mountain of calls from parents and teachers, some threatening me. If you dare take away corporal punishment out of the school, I will write to the Prime Minister or whatever and seek to have you removed and whatever the case and all that story may be. Oh no, you're not going to bring us into this. We're going to have our conversation, Mr. Prime Minister, absolutely. But I make an appeal to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, to the Bahamian people. Go into your respective vestures and your churches and your civic organizations and wherever else, and you have a conversation about what you believe corporal punishment, or if there should be any corporal punishment in the Bahamian society, and under what circumstances, so that we can have a clear policy as a country going forward with regard to this. And education is happy to join in and have that conversation along with you, Mr. Speaker. And so, I want to say that South Beach is extremely proud to support this budget. As we have discussed and has been presented by the member for East Grand Bahama, the Minister of Finance, this is the budget that lays the foundation for a prosperous and successful future in our Bahamian society. The gutsy call of this government to enact the Fiscal Responsibility Act demonstrates our commitment to today's prosperity and the prosperity of those who sit in that gallery, Mr. Speaker, our young. Because the reckless, careless, indiscriminate wastage and management exercised in times past with our financial resources was leading us to disaster. In fact, just before May 2017, we were on the cusp of irreversible decline. And we only have to take a look at some of our neighbors to see what that will do. And I don't have to mention any. Maybe we have our sister down in the south who after X number of 12 downgrades, successive downgrades, now have to come into, sister country rather, have to come into office and lay off hundreds of public servants. Thousands of public servants. Do the Bahamian people want to face that specter? Where there is a significant reduction in the public sector, where 28 or 29,000 Bahamians are now employed. Would you like to see 8 or 9 or 10,000 on the streets? You're talking about taking care of the small man? This is the kind of commitment. And no, it isn't popular. We know. No, it was met with all kinds of reclamations and abusive language towards us. But we also know that tomorrow, when the proverbial fan starts blowing it all over the political and economic and social landscape, then you're going to point your finger at us, and they're going to point their finger at us and says, when you had the chance, Mr. Speaker, what did you do about the disaster that you met on your doorstep? Well, we have taken those steps. Those are critical and crucial steps. I don't mind those who seek to be oppositional in their utterances, mind you. They agree. They cannot, of course, admit that they agree, but they agree. They are happy that we are the ones having to take this step and make these very difficult decisions, but necessary decisions. That is why I am so proud, Mr. Speaker, to stand here and support this budget.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. As many? The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for North Andros and the Berry Islands.
Hard to fulfill a shoe like that, huh? You don't preach your sermon. Do it on this stuff. Mr. Speaker, I rise on behalf of the people of North Andros and the Berry Islands. Thankful to the Almighty God for allowing me here today as the representative of a constituency of the people I hold near and dear to my heart. Mr. Speaker, 2018-2019 has been a phenomenal change across this great landscape we call the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The government, Mr. Speaker, has introduced a number of legislation leading to aim at growing our economy, supporting entrepreneurial ventures, and helping disadvantaged Bahamians achieve a level of stability in their lives. Mr. Speaker, in the Ministry of Agriculture, the government's mission remains the same, and that is to ensure, as a nation, we are able to fully feed ourselves while taking advantage of all that the sector has to offer. Mr. Speaker, as the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, with oversight of BAMSI, I witnessed firsthand how the government's mandate is being achieved on the ground. Just 1 year ago, I reported to the House that BAMSI would be facing increased management control to reduce wastage during the upcoming fiscal period and beyond. Mr. Speaker, today I can say, so said, so done. Mr. Speaker, BAMSI is in the process of establishing a new packing house and processing facility, which is expected to be fully operational in early July. Once the processing plant is brought online, it means a significant reduction in post-harvest losses, with the goal being zero. The plan makes it possible to take less than commercial grade products and transform them into value-added items, such as chips, paste, jams, jellies, and sauces. Mr. Speaker, I'm reminded, about 3 years ago, the Prime Minister was on the stage in North Andres to a major rally. The Prime Minister today was in there. And he promised the people that this is something that he will be bringing in to North Andres and the BAMSI. And today, Mr. Speaker, that is another promise fulfilled by the administration. Mr. Speaker, the newly equipped packing house will also increase the level of efficiency during the post-harvest process, ensuring that they are safe for construction while reducing the time between harvesting and the produce getting to market. Mr. Speaker, BAMSI experienced revolutionary growth in sales during the last year, with projection yields showing continued increases, and the Institute's new operating model is credited with its dynamic shift. Mr. Speaker, might I add that BAMSI has made intentional steps to reduce its presence in the retail sector and is channeling more of its produce directly to the wholesale marketing and large buyers, such as hotels, restaurants, and grocery stores. Mr. Speaker, this move benefits not just BAMSI, but also members of its associated farmers who are now have access to larger markets. Major steps have been also taken at the BAMSI's tutorial and research farm in North Andres to support this business and model. Since July, the farm has placed some 30 acres of land under new cultivation for crops, 10 acres of bananas, and planted over 1,000 coconut trees. They have also begun research on an assortment of crops, namely broccoli, different types of cauliflower, tomatoes, watermelon, honeydew, cantaloupe, sweet peppers, butternut squash, sweet potato, cassava, eggplant, and also okra. Mr. Speaker, a new focus of the farm is building a database from information collected during research trials on various crops. The data collected will be uploaded to BAMSI's website, where members of the Institute's Associated Farmers Program will be able to access the information. The information will cover the cost of growing certain produce based on the number of man-hours, the biggest pest problem, and how to counteract them, techniques on how to grow and fertilize produce, and what is feasible to grow in the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, BAMSI farm teams continue to look at the different types of a single crop and yield per acre. This information will help farmers calculate the economic impact of farming certain produce. BAMSI's farm also offers technical assistance to farmers, both established and those new to the sector, all in an effort, Mr. Speaker, to get Bahamians interested in feeding themselves and their community. Mr. Speaker, a new disbursement program launched during the 2018-2019 season has seen approximately 100 superior quality small ruminants, sheep and goat, provided to farmers in Long Island, Eleuthera, and New Providence. These breeder stock animals under contract are not intended for slaughter, but to breed. At least a dozen farmers have received animals to date, with more expected to receive some shortly. The purpose of this program is to grow the Bahamian herd and also to improve the genetic quality of the herd. Mr. Speaker, the farm is also developing 50 acres of new pasture land for each livestock herd and is using this as a research opportunity. The new pasture is for breeding purposes and to improve the health of the animals. The research involves looking at several different types of grass and legumes and measuring which results in appropriate animal weight gain and performances, and which is overall best for the animals. Mr. Speaker, the North Andes Farm fulfills an important part of BAMSI's mandate by undergoing critical research and data collection. The new farm is now on the verge of planting a new crop of bananas and new crops that have never grown before, all of which will be studied and determine the best varieties to grow in Bahamian soil. In time, BAMSI's website will serve as a central data site for the agricultural sector and will give farmers quick access to information that could positively impact their farming operations. Mr. Speaker, one of the biggest challenges faced by BAMSI's farm has been the lack of working machinery. However, this is about to change, Mr. Speaker. With a new crop season on the horizon, our management team has embarked on a program for the total repair and servicing for existing machinery and the purchase of much-needed, modernized, and technologically advanced equipment. Mr. Speaker, once this is accomplished, it will prove that the efficiency of the farm while driving down the cost of labor, as well as position BAMSI as a model for us, for up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the industry. Mr. Speaker, young Bahamians interested in farming who are concerned about the hard work involved can now be inspired to push forward with their dreams, knowing that farming is now a fully mechanized process. Mr. Speaker, gone are the days when farmers work with just cutlass and a gravel. Turning to the economic arm, Mr. Speaker, BAMSI has experienced an increase in the number of memorandums of understanding signed with universities in the United States and China, which enables greater faculty and student exchange and also lends to greater research potential. These agreements are very important to BAMSI graduates because all BAMSI's credits are accepted by these international bodies. The partnership also exposes students to the additional program offering beyond the 5-degree program offered by BAMSI. Another benefit of these agreements is that as a graduate of BAMSI, the Bahamian students pay in-state tuition fees. The faculty can also access these benefits, which they choose to continue their education through a short course, certificate course, or degree program. Mr. Speaker, as many of you are aware, BAMSI recently celebrated its 4th graduation, and I am pleased to report that most of the graduates are already gainfully employed, while some have established businesses and others set to continue their studies abroad. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to mention that one of the students was fortunate enough to participate in the summer internship in China at Ocean University. Mr. Speaker, the internship was free and focused on marine science. I'm also proud, Mr. Speaker, to inform you that these are the types of initiatives that are available to BAMSI students. I wish to add, Mr. Speaker, that many of my constituents have enrolled at the school and are now taking advantage of these opportunities, while making an important impact in the communities of North Angeles through social engagements, many of which are global initiatives, such as Dive for Debris, which saw the students cleaning up a number of blue holes in the area. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, BAMSI's Collegiate 4-H Club and their Serves to Supper program has been an amazing success in which members work with primary school students, training them in basic agriculture and backyard farming techniques. Mr. Speaker, the academic arm is also developing a program to offer prep course in mathematics and English in the Family Islands. Classes have already started in Athens, and other Family Islands are expected to begin shortly. Upcoming courses for the 2019 include a pesticide certification course scheduled to begin June 17th in conjunction with Alabama State University, Georgia State University, and the University of Florida. Upon completion, participants will be certified in pesticide use and management. The course, which is divided in 3 broad categories: agriculture, household and landscaping, and turf graft management, also includes sessions on training the trainer. Mr. Speaker, since its inception, some 1,000 individuals have received training by way of BAMSI. And we further realize that if BAMSI is to be successfully achieved its mandate, it must be able to reach the widest segment of Bahamians. Along with its associated degree programs that are available also at BAMSI Lord Andres campus, the school also offers a hybrid certificate program in agriculture, where students learn online for 5 weeks and then spend 1 week on campus. Mr. Speaker, this type of program recognizes that everyone can complete a 2-year degree or can travel to Andres to live and study for an extended period. And BAMSI's online courses provide that middle ground for them. BAMSI, Mr. Speaker, also offers a summer program for teens called SEEDS, geared towards junior and senior high school students, grades 7 to 12, from throughout the country. The program also allows participants to overnight for the week-long program. SEEDS has also become a way for participants to see what life as a BAMSI student might look like. In 2018, several SEEDS alumni enrolled in BAMSI as full-time students. And, Mr. Speaker, the school expects the number to double this year. Mr. Speaker, BAMSI's Lord Andres campus continues to advance. Solar lights have been set up on campus, and the infrastructure is being upgraded for the upcoming semester. Capital development, Mr. Speaker, continues in preparation for the fall semester, and new students can expect to take up residency in the dorms. Stop off in my speech, please. This one for me. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I am pleased to announce the official launch of BAMSI's website, www.bamsibahamas.edu.bs. The creation of this online platform helps establish BAMSI as a modernized tertiary-level institution that provides first-class education, cutting-edge technology, technical training in agriculture, marine science, and related disciplines, while preparing students for successful careers with a focus on environmental stewardship, leadership, research, and outreach. Mr. Speaker, we are indeed pleased with BAMSI's process. Therefore, when criticism about what is being done at BAMSI is levied, one can only smile. As many, this part for you, DDM. As you may recall, Mr. Speaker, it was only 4 years ago that this very same institute of which I speak was left partially in ruin. When the male dorm was engulfed in flames, with ashes to prove the negligence of the former administration, having issued a contract to build some $2.1 million with no, and I repeat, no insurance. Well, 2.6 million, yeah, 3 million, yeah. Consequently, this, Mr. Speaker, has left BAMSI with no mail done. As of today, inconveniencing many students who would have otherwise been able to use the faculties to carry out their studies. $2 million, Mr. Speaker, of the people's money up in smoke. $2 million plus. $2+ million, Mr. Speaker. That could have been used for resources needed now, like scholarships, supplies, equipment, and the list goes on, Mr. Speaker. And I can say, Mr. Speaker, today, thank God for this government. This government with a vision to move this country forward. The bounty of the former Progressive Liberal Party administration, like the PLP, is a thing of the past. The new bounty under this ministerial administration is about to take hold, Mr. Speaker, one which Bahamians can be proud of. So when side opposite want to know where bounty is moving, I can say under this administration, it's moving on the right path. Mr. Speaker, and I'll take this time, before I go any further, it would be remiss of me not to thank the people in this honorable house, along with the people of the great constituency of North Andros and the Berry Islands, who was with me and my family through our most difficult time, when I, Mr. Speaker, would have lost my best friend, a matriarch of this family, a patriarch, sorry, a man who stood and believed in giving back to his community and his island at large, who served many countless nights through bad weather, where we would have wondered if the boat would have arrived carrying goods to feed the people. Sacrificed 50 years of his life in a lodge, to me as the longest president I'd ever lived. My mentor, Mr. Speaker, that pushed me today to be here, to stand in this honorable house, to serve the people of North Andros and the Berry Islands, to do what is right by giving back once you have achieved. That man I speak none other than my father. Carlton Bowling Sr. The shoes may be hard to fill, but the legacy will live on. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, now I turn to my constituency, the great constituency of North Andros and the Berry Islands. I recall speaking in this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, in 2017 about the high unemployment, the rate facing our constituency where there was not much people working. Today, Mr. Speaker, since coming into office in May 2017, over 200 young people of North Andros have been employed under this ministerial administration as we move. For the first time, Mr. Speaker, in North Andros, there is an urban renewal center catering to the social needs for our community as we move, Mr. Speaker. As we move. During my campaign, since 20 miles, some 20 miles away from the clinic in Nicholstown, a child in Red Bay, Mr. Speaker, fractured her arm and had to travel by a private vehicle to the clinic in pain due to the lack of an ambulance. Mr. Speaker, that need was heard, and today, Mr. Speaker, I can say an ambulance is in place in North Andros and the Berry Islands. As we move, Mr. Speaker, some 20 years ago, the Ministry of Works, leading to this day, the approval of house plans, Mr. Speaker. Now I want you to look and see how this economy is now growing, Mr. Speaker. You used to have 20 house plans, 30 house plans for the past 20 years. In 2018, Mr. Speaker, for the first time ever, over 120 house plans were approved in North Andros. As we move, Mr. Speaker, education remains in the order of the day in North Andros and the Berry Islands. As a result, BTVI is in North Andros with over 100 students enrolled free of charge. As we move, Mr. Speaker, on April 8th of this year, Mr. Speaker, a town meeting was held in the garden, otherwise known as Stanley Creek, during which time the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond T. Bannister, made a commitment to the people of that area that after 20 years of having a need for a bridge, that need will be met in short order, Mr. Speaker, with construction of a new bridge. As we move, in 2016, Hurricane Matthew, Mr. Speaker, demolished the regatta site of North Andros. And today, Mr. Speaker, our vision of this village built back stronger than before is now reality. As we move, Mr. Speaker, for the past 30 plus years, the people of North Andros had to settle for low water pressure with their homes and businesses. Brackish water, to be honest, Mr. Speaker, with water lines that needed replacement. Today, Mr. Speaker, under this minister-led administration, with the assistance of the Member of Parliament for Long Island, Chairman of the Water and Sewage Corporation, Adrian Gibson, Honorable Adrian Gibson, South Mastic Point, Mr. Speaker, North Mastic Point, Pineville, Council, and now with high water pressure that is clean, that is flowing into their homes and businesses, with Nicholstown, Mr. Speaker, and Fire Road presently receiving upgrades, Mr. Speaker. This is what you call a government that is moving, that is growing, that is a caring government, Mr. Speaker, as we move. In July, Mr. Speaker, along with the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, a private investor, Mr. Speaker, will visit North Andros to identify land to begin a poultry farm, which is expected to provide more than 70 permanent jobs. This is in progress. This isn't a caring government. As we move, Mr. Speaker, let me set the record straight. Let me set the record straight, Mr. Speaker. Much has been said about the road works in North Andros. Me being a fair man and taught by my father what it is to give back, I always want to put credit where credit is due. So for all of those who are on the opposite side, who are saying, oh, this government ain't do these roads and stuff like that, okay. See, when election come around, for years and years, it was always a thing, now you have to scrape up the roads or do something to show that you're doing it. Don't fall for that. Yeah, there was a contract awarded to a person, a contractor, to do the road from Fresh Creek to the Stafford Creek Bridge. Yeah, there was a contract awarded under the PLP government to do the road from Stafford Creek to Back Road. That's all well and good. But this administration, however, under this minister-led administration, $15 million was allocated for road works to be done. And today, Mr. Speaker, with that $15 million, I don't want them to take credit for something that they didn't get. I already give them that. That happened in 2016. But as of 2017, under this minister administration, South Mastic Point, North Mastic Point, Pineville, and Consong are now completed with roads being done and paved. Roads that you have never seen paved before in North Mastic Point, nor in South Mastic Point, nor in Pineville. Under this administration it was done, Mr. Speaker. With fire hydrants in all, Mr. Speaker. Fire hydrants. So don't get Nicholstown and Firewood. Don't worry, you next. This government don't play. We are moving as we move. Too much about Lord Andres now. I'm a man that is fair and is always working for my people. So let me go on to the Berry Islands, Mr. Speaker, where the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. And in the Berries, we are serious about providing residents with the necessary resources in healthcare sector. And thus today, Mr. Speaker, our ambulance is on the ground in the Berry Islands as we move. After 15 plus years, Mr. Speaker, in partnership with Royal Caribbean Lines, Cruise Lines, the long-awaited community center is on schedule to be completed in July of this year as we move. After 20 plus years, Mr. Speaker, listen to how long this was. Listen. Everyone just seeing the vision now to do things and brag about, oh, this is what we did. No one did no action. After 20 plus years, as I speak today, Mr. Speaker, the land has been cleared and the groundbreaking for the much-needed airport terminal, an extension of its runway, is about to take place in a few days, Mr. Speaker. So there you go, Exuma. You don't have to get upset. You don't have to worry. Yours too, Mr. Exuma, is on the way. But guess what? Under this ministerial administration, as we move, unemployment in the Berries, Mr. Speaker, is next to none. As a result of the major project by Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, who has just opened up another investment, a development, that is worth over some $250 million. Not to mention the continuous commitment by those in the small business sector in the Berry Islands, who have for years carried our community. Mr. Speaker, just recently, in his capacity as the chairman of Water and Sewage, again my colleague is mentioned, Adrian Gibson, Honorable Adrian Gibson, he visited the Berry Islands to assess the long-standing issues regarding the water system. Mr. Speaker, we are hopeful that this visit results in the much-needed works being carried out to address similar problems experienced by Androsians such as water pressure and brackish water. Mr. Gibson, thank you. You see, Mr. Speaker, the member for Freetown, if he was here today, will understand when I say I don't just fly there. I live there. Lord Andres in the Berry Islands is my home. I am a son of the soil, one who believes in the community and its people. As for the representation, while some may say that this member is unfit, Exuma, let the work I've done speak for me. Mr. Speaker, we give God and this government thanks for all that has been done in our constituency. And we look forward to what is to become. Mr. Speaker, while we have achieved much in the past 2 years, I will continue to plead the plight of my people in North Andres and the Berry Islands. Because as family islanders, Mr. Speaker, we have suffered long enough. As for North Andres, We make a petition, Mr. Speaker, for a new airport terminal in San Andres, a seawall on the bay in Stafford Creek, a seawall in front of the graveyard in South Master Point, roadworks in Red Bays and Low Sound, the renaming of Master Point Primary School to Rosella Woodside Primary School, the power plant upgrade, and an upgrade to the Nicholstown Clinic. Within the barriers, Mr. Speaker, we make an appeal for the repairs to the government dock, the construction of a new administrative complex, and the major road works that needs to take place. I wish to publicly state that I've kept my word thus far to my people. Out with the promises, years and years of promises that were never fulfilled, in with progress and prosperity. Mr. Speaker, our government is focusing on 3 E's: education, entrepreneurship, and economics. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that building a stronger Bahamas starts now as we move. We must tighten our inner economic belt and humble down for common good, which is to ultimately be a well-balanced, striving force with social and economical stability as we move. As a nation, we have to build a better way of life, where there can be hope for our children, and where the dreams become reality. Mr. Speaker, the road to that dream starts now as we move. And there is no man, Mr. Speaker, I trust more to steer this country in the pivotal point other than the Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis. Mr. Speaker, my father always told me, in life, we make many sacrifices. As long as it's in the best interest of people, you will always be loved and remembered long after you have left this earth. It is still to me, Mr. Speaker, the people's time. Mr. Speaker, as we move to a better Bahamas, I thank my entire team at BAMSI, those who continue to work with me in the North Andres and Berry Islands constituency, and the people of this great nation who are doing their part to ensure that our children's future are secure. Mr. Speaker, North Andres and the Berry Islands support this 2019-2020 budget. May God bless you, and may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Honourable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Anne's. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to take our luncheon break at this point in time, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to, while we're on the break, just invite all members who are part of the House. The Chief Justice will be sworn in at the House of at Government House at 1:30, so all members are invited and asked to actually attend. So at this point in time, Mr. Speaker, I would move that the House suspends until 3 p.m. for the luncheon break.
Honourable members, it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House do suspend until 3 p.m. this afternoon. As many as are in favour will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. The business of this House stands suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.